Now that you seem to be cool with Robert Downey Jr. again, is there any chance you come back and do an Iron Man or Avenger movie?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 behind-the-scenes MCU dramas.
What would you say is the biggest difference between approaching a Marvel project versus a DC project?
I don't think there's much difference.
For this list, we'll be looking at feuds and creative differences between actors, directors, and studios that took place during this comic book company's productions. What behind-the-scenes disputes shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Edgar Wright leaves the production of Ant-Man.
So who the hell are you? I'm Ant-Man. Ant-Man? What, you haven't heard of me?
Famous for his quirky comedies like Shaun of the Dead and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, director Edgar Wright had people excited when he was attached to bring Ant-Man into the MCU. It was also good news to hear that he had been working on different versions of a script since the mid-2000s, before the MCU had really gotten off the ground. Wright's enthusiasm for Ant-Man made it shocking to hear that he left the production months before shooting was set to begin.
Well, you're fired, of course. I mean, can't really keep you on.
Wait, what?
After Wright and Disney released a joint statement citing creative differences as the reason for his departure, he was replaced by Peyton Reed. While Ant-Man was still a success, fans will always wonder what could have been.
And I gotta introduce you to some people, some really skilled people.
Not interested.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm serious, man. I'm not going back.
Number 9. MCU films versus Marvel TV.
We don't know how long Hydra's been inside S.H.I.E.L.D., but they are taking control.
Hydra? What? Where?
Everywhere.
While this may be hard to imagine in a post-WandaVision world, there was a time where the quality of MCU's TV properties was really inconsistent. And despite Marvel's insistence that everything was in the same universe, the films barely seemed to acknowledge the TV shows.
Captain America has defeated the Helicarriers at the Triskelion. But his status is unknown.
And S.H.I.E.L.D. has fallen.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actress Chloe Bennett once called the show, quote, the black sheep of the MCU. Multiple creatives expressed frustration that certain characters or plots couldn't be used if the films needed them. And after jumping through all of these hoops, it became unclear whether any of these shows were even canon. Now that new MCU series are releasing on Disney+, we can expect the studio to distance itself further from these early shows.
Suddenly our plane shuts down, our communication's jammed.
I don't know what's happening, I wish I did. You have to believe me.
No, I don't.
Number 8. Mickey Rourke insults Marvel movies.
My father is the reason you're alive. The reason I'm alive is because you had a shot, you took it, you missed. Did I?
Mickey Rourke had a few negative things to say to Marvel after Iron Man 2. While he didn't play the worst Marvel villain of them all, his role as Whiplash was largely forgettable. The actor later expressed his disappointment in the film's final version of his character, Whiplash. He said the studio, quote, wanted a one-dimensional bad guy, so most of the performance ended up on the floor. Rourke also called the MCU movies mindless.
I want my bird.
A bird? You want a bird?
I want my bird.
Although it's unclear what exactly happened behind the scenes, it's clear the actor felt like he could have brought more to the role. It's safe to say that fans would have definitely liked to see a more complex take on Whiplash.
You lose.
Number 7. Don Cheadle replaces Terrence Howard.
Hey, Tony.
I'm sorry, this is the fun V. The humdrum V is back there.
Nice job.
See you back, bitch.
The MCU is no stranger to recasting its actors. After all, Mark Ruffalo notably took over for Edward Norton as the Hulk. But the high-profile replacement that really turned heads was the announcement that Terrence Howard would no longer play James Rhodes.
Next time, baby.
In between the first 2 Iron Man films, Howard was reportedly offered less money to reprise his role. The actor later implied that the money he was promised went to upping Robert Downey Jr.'s paycheck. After Howard couldn't come to terms with Marvel over his pay, his involvement in the film ended, and he was replaced by Don Cheadle. The latter actor has done such a great job that few fans are bothered now by this recasting.
Didn't expect to see you here.
Look, it's me. I'm here to deal with it. Let's move on.
Number 6. Jeremy Renner wanted Hawkeye to die.
When? You're gonna be all right.
You knew that? Is that what you know?
Hawkeye went from being just another hero with a bow and arrow to an Avenger with an incredibly deep backstory. Throughout the years, we watched him protect his secret family, cope with losing them after the snap, and get chosen to headline his own show on Disney+. But all of that almost never happened. While filming the first Avengers movie in 2012, actor Jeremy Renner repeatedly asked to be killed off so he wouldn't have to reprise the role.
Have you ever had someone take your brain and play? Pull you out. Stuff something else in.
He was frustrated that he spent most of the film as a brainwashed minion instead of a fully formed character. Fortunately, the creatives didn't listen to his requests and gave him more opportunities to grow.
You know what I've become.
I don't judge people on their worst mistakes.
Number 5. Joss Whedon runs into problems during Avengers: Age of Ultron.
So you're going for artificial intelligence and you didn't want to tell the team?
Right. That's right. You know why? Because we don't have time for a city hall debate.
Seeing writer and director Joss Whedon's name on a superhero project was once a good sign for the fans. People were especially psyched for his next project after he worked on the very successful 2012 Avengers film. However, things started to go downhill when it came time for the 2015 sequel, Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I'm sorry, I know you mean well. You just didn't think it through. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change.
Behind the scenes, Whedon and the studio disagreed about certain story beats. Marvel executives were also concerned that the creative was giving too much attention to developing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and scheduling conflicts between actors made Whedon have to rethink certain scenes. These production hurdles likely contributed to Age of Ultron's mixed reception.
City's flying. We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
Number 4. Ike Perlmutter versus everyone. It's long been rumored that Ike Perlmutter, former chairman of Marvel Entertainment, butted heads with notable Marvel figures over the years, and there were suggestions that he didn't have faith in female-led films. Former Disney CEO Bob Iger hinted that Perlmutter made it difficult to get films out with diverse or female leads. Black Panther and Captain Marvel were specifically named as projects that Iger had to push harder for.
How do I look? Fresh.
Over the years, the company was restructured, so Feige no longer had to work directly under Perlmutter. Since then, Captain Marvel and Black Panther each grossed over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Their massive success was the best way for Feige and Iger to prove Perlmutter wrong.
With all due respect, King T'Challa, what can a nation of farmers have to offer the rest of the world?
Number 3. Natalie Portman gets distance from the MCU.
Hi.
So what's the story with you?
Why does there have to be a story? There's no story.
After earning an Oscar for 2010's Black Swan, it's understandable to see why Natalie Portman wanted more to work with than she was given as Jane Foster in Thor. Despite being an accomplished astrophysicist, Jane didn't really have complex motivations or a challenging role. Portman mainly wanted to return for Thor: The Dark World because Patty Jenkins was set to direct at the time. But when Jenkins left the project due to creative differences, the actress had to continue without her. After not returning to film a post-credits scene, follow-up MCU films kept explaining away her absence.
Sorry to hear that Jane dumped you.
She didn't dump me, you know. I dumped her. It's a mutual dumping.
It seemed like Portman's Marvel career was over. However, thanks to Taika Waititi and other creative talents, she's back on board for Thor 4.
It's been a very strange day.
I am. Jane,
Where were you?
where were you?
Number 2. The firing and rehiring of James Gunn.
What is your goal here? To get everybody to hate you? Because it's working.
While the MCU parted ways with directors before they got a chance to make their films, it was very different with James Gunn. His first 2 Guardians of the Galaxy movies were universally beloved when Disney fired him. But once extremely controversial tweets from Gunn's past resurfaced in 2018, he was removed from production on the 3rd volume of the series. While the company moved on, a number of fans and the cast largely stood behind the director. Dave Bautista even claimed he'd quit the film if Gunn's script wasn't used. While Gunn was working on the Suicide Squad, he was informed that he'd been rehired again. After a lot of back and forth, production on Volume 3 would continue as planned.
We're saving the galaxy again? I guess. Awesome!
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Scarlett Johansson sues Disney.
Do you believe me now? How many others? Enough.
For most people, taking on a company as big as Disney is too frightening to imagine. But Scarlett Johansson was willing to do so. The trouble started after Disney released the long-awaited Black Widow solo film in theaters and on Disney Plus simultaneously in 2021. Johansson sued because she claimed less money came to her because the film was available to stream when it was supposed to be a theatrical exclusive.
What was her name? Unknown.
You don't feel anything?
However, Disney initially called her out for not considering the effect the pandemic had on their plans. Marvel mainstays like Kevin Feige were not happy with how the company communicated with Johansson. Although the actress and the studio eventually worked things out, the lawsuit brought her tenure as Black Widow to a dramatic conclusion.
Don't take it personal, but thank you for your cooperation.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.